You usually hear them before you see them. There's no mistaking the loud and oftentimes synchronized cacophony of caws from 11 Alala released into a Hawaii Island Natural Area Reserve last fall. These birds, 7 young males and 4 young females, represent what conservationists hope is the beginning of a recovered population of the endangered Hawaiian crow on the island. Alala have been extinct in the wild since 2002. Since the birds took flight from a remote forest aviary in September and October 2017, they've been under the daily, watchful eyes of a monitoring team from the Hawaii Endangered Conservation Program, a field program of the San Diego Zoo Global. In partnership with the Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and others, the zoo reared the Alala at its centers on the Big Island and on Maui. The Alala are tracked daily by using signals from the lightweight radio transmitters each one wears, or simply by seeing them with the naked eye or through binoculars. Their movements, their flights, what they eat, where they roost, their behaviors, virtually everything about these birds is closely monitored and carefully recorded. Of high interest to all the folks involved in the Alala project is how the birds individually and collectively react to threats from predators.
Watch them break off the young tip, and then they'll get at the pit like these two.
An initial release of Alala in 2016 was temporarily halted, and surviving birds were brought back into the aviary after 2 were attacked by another native bird, their natural predator, the eo, or Hawaiian hawk. Prior to the release, the birds now living in the Pu'u Maka'ala Natural Area Reserve received extensive anti-predator training.
So similar to any predator-prey interaction, there's a lot that goes on that we don't necessarily see, but the observations that we have made indicate that that the birds do identify EO as a predator, and that they can take evasive action when needed.
Recently, the project team saw this in action. 2 members heard an eruption of Alala alarm calls and heard quick wing flapping. A dark morph EO darted across an opening. Immediately after, a light morph EO crossed the opening with 4 Alala following it or chasing it above the canopy. All 4 Alala disappeared for about 15 seconds before the birds came back to the release feeder area.
I think at this stage we can't be sure whether or not the training is the crucial piece of the puzzle. We'd like to hope that it helped, but actually being in the wild, around predators, observing the rest of the forest birds and their interactions with the predators is the best training they can possibly get.
Another sign of how well they've accepted their new home in the forest is they are being observed foraging more often for native fruits instead of relying on feeders placed strategically outside the release aviary.
In the beginning of the release, the birds would spend much more time at or around feeders and kind of feeding here and there as they're around the area. But now, as we start to see more movement patterns, more further movements, we see birds coming to feeders much less, but when they do come, they spend a bit more time getting food. And then once they're gone, we won't see a bird at the feeder for oftentimes an hour and a half, 2 hours before the next bird comes back.
The supplemental feeders will remain in place for at least a year to ensure the newly wild birds have that extra helping hand they might need. Everyone involved in the Alala project are hopeful, given how this release group of Alala is doing.
The birds have adjusted very well to their forest home, and it's just been really inspiring for all of us on the project to see and hear Alala in the wild again.
You can hear them?
Yes. They're very loud.
Yeah, we're just off the transept.
It's a sweet sound for the many people who've worked decades to get to this point. In time, it's hoped the distinctive caw of the Alala will again be heard loud and clear across broad landscapes of Hawaii Island. Plans are underway to release additional birds in the Natural Area Reserve later this year.